the microphone. Okay. Now state your name and your birthday.
Well, my name is Mena Winters, and my birthday is August the 14th, 1913.
What was your maiden name?
Meyer. M-E-Y-E-R.
Okay. And where were you, what? Where were you born?
I was born in St. Genevieve County.
St. Genevieve County.
Missouri. And I lived here all my life.
You're born in a hospital or in a house?
No, in a house. In those days, we didn't have hospitals close around.
Okay.
Many years ago.
And who are your parents?
My parents is Frank and Anna. She was Anna Barr, Frank and Anna Meyer.
Do you know their dates, birth dates?
Yes. My daddy was born July the 3rd, 1880, and my mother was born November the 18th, 1884.
1884. And what about your grandparents?
Oh, I should have got that out the Bible. There, I have their death notice.
You got
in
it? In here?
Bible.
Under the tape?
Bible
All right,
there,
hold on. Hold on.
Yeah, I have their.
Stop it.
Mother and daddy's name.
Yeah.
And do you want my
Your grandparents?
their parents? Now I would have
If you know any of their brothers and sisters, who they are too.
my brothers and sisters.
No, their brothers and sisters.
Oh.
We'll want yours too, but theirs too. If you
That
know
would,
them. If
that
you
would
know
be
'em.
my uncles and aunts.
True.
Well, I know their names, but I don't know their dates.
That's okay.
That's okay. Okay.
All right, now what do you want first?
Let's start with your grandparents.
My grandparents on my mother's side.
Okay.
All right, Joseph Barr was my mother's daddy, and he was born September the 26th, 1858, and he died July the 20th, 1942.
Okay.
And the grandmother, my grandmother Barr, Josephine Barr, she was born May the 3rd, 1864, and she died February the 3rd, 1941.
Okay.
Now that's on my mother's side. Now on my daddy's side, I really do not have their dates.
So who are
But my daddy's father was Joseph Meyer, and he died fairly young because he was bit by a horse and got blood poisoning, and it killed him. In those days, there wasn't much to be done for blood poisoning. And his mother, Mary Meyer, she lived to be pretty old, but I don't remember the date that she died or her birthday. But it was Mary Meyer. And then on Tom's side, oh well.
Tom Winters.
Tom Winters.
When was Tom born?
Tom was born September the 22nd, 1910. And he died February the 11th, 1987. And his parents were William Winters, and he was born October the 20th. He was born August the 7th, 1884, and he died January the 11th, 1955. And his mother was Anna Hannard, before she was married, Anna Hannard, and she died. She was born December the 21st, 1881, 1881, and she died December the 27th, 1923. She was fairly young when she died. She died with pneumonia. And then his daddy remarried years later. They had 6 children. And the oldest one, Ted, he was 19 years old when he was killed playing baseball. And then the next was Thomas, and I gave you his birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next one was Monsignor Joseph Witcher. He became a priest in 1940, June of 1940. And he died he was killed in an automobile wreck, June the 4th, 1994.
Mm-hmm.
And then was Bernard, and he's living here. His birthday is August the 21st, 1915, and he's living here in St. Genevieve. And the next one is Valentine, and he lives in Taunton, Massachusetts, and he has a birthday on February the 15th, 1917. And then there's Mary, and she married Eddie Falk, and they live at Farmington, and her birthday is October the 23rd, 1921, and they're living at Farmington.
Okay, for the Winters lineage, where did they come from, and how did they get to Missouri?
Tom's great-grandfather, Howner, on his mother's side, came from Germany, but I don't know what part of Germany.
Mm-hmm. Do you know how they got to Missouri?
No, I can't really.
You don't know. How did
No.
your parents how did you get to Missouri?
And my great-grandparents, not my grandparents, now my great-grandparents.
So this was early 1800s.
All right.
Or mid 1800s.
Now, they came from Baden, Germany. And, but I couldn't tell you the date.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell you when they came here or how they came. But they came from Baden, Germany.
And settled here, or settled somewhere else and then came here?
No, it was in the state of Missouri.
They came to the state of Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
So they probably...
And also the Hounards. They came, Tom's great-grandparents. They came from the state of Missouri. I mean, they came to the state of Missouri.
State of Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So they probably came up the Mississippi.
Possible, yes. Uh-huh. I haven't gotten into that.
Okay. What can you tell us about the lives of either your grandparents or your parents? Do you know much? Or Tom's parents or grandparents? You know how they lived? What they did for a living?
Yeah,
or
now Tom's grandparents are his parents.
Either one.
His grandparents. I don't know too much about the grandparents, but his parents, William Winters and Anna Hownard Winters, they lived, this is really something, they lived in a house in St. Genevieve.
Let me turn on this light. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm going to turn on this
Now,
light.
Father Joe, Monsignor Winter, was born in that house. And they moved to Wilhelmina, Missouri, which is on the Arkansas border. And it's swampy. It's down in the Boot Heel. And they had a house up on stilts. And they lived there for many years. And that's where Tom's mother got pneumonia from the swampy climate down there, and she died when Mary, who married Eddie Falk at Farmington, was just 3 months old.
Oh.
And or a couple of months old. She was born in October, and the mother died. I think it was December the 27th or around there, and she died with pneumonia. And so the daddy moved to the St. Genevieve area. Well, it was Zell, out of Zell. Zell is a little town out from St. Genevieve, and he moved there with his mother, Wilhelmina Winter. Now, I didn't give you anything on her. Now, that was Tom's grandmother.
Okay.
And he moved out there with her, and
This is Tom's grandmother.
yeah, Tom's grandmother, and she was born in. Her name is Wilhelmina, Wilbelmina, Wilhelmina, and she died in 1937. She was born in 1862 and died in 1937. But the daddy brought his family up to the 5 children to live with grandmother when Tom's mother died. Okay, the grandmother helped raise the family. And of course, as I told you, Ted was killed when he was 19 playing baseball. So, all right, before they went to down to Wilhelmina from St. Genevieve, they lived in this house uptown, here in town, and that's where I said Monsignor Winter was born. Well, that's the house that my mother and daddy bought when we moved in from the farm. And that's where Tom found me, in that house that they used to live in. And that was really something. He loved that house, and I did too. And to this day, I'd give anything to buy that house, you know, but they won't sell it. But anyway, that's where he met me then. I was living at a house, and they left when they went to Wilhelmina. So, that was that.
Okay.
And
what did his dad do for occupation?
Tom's daddy?
Yeah.
He was a foreman on the railroad. Some foreman on the railroad. He did railroad work.
What about your dad?
My daddy was a carpenter.
And your grandfather?
My grandfather was a farmer. Well, my daddy was a farmer while we lived on the farm, but we moved to town when I was 13, and he was a carpenter after that in the town. But before that, he was a farmer, and my grandparents were farming people all the way through, all the time until they died. And what on the Barr side, now on the Myers side, I don't know what he did, because like I say, my grandfather Meyer died. My father's dad died young because he was bit by a horse and developed blood poisoning, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So,
What did, so how many kids are in your family when where are you and your family?
oh, in the Meyer family, all right, there were 5 of us. And mother and daddy, the oldest one is Francis, and he was born May the 14th, 1904, I think it is. And I have that here too. And Lena was born, she was next, she was born January the 3rd, 1907, and she died just a year ago this last March. And
She
then my
was the
brother
oldest in your family?
Francis was the oldest,
Francis, and then?
and then Lena,
Then Lena.
and then Harry, and he was born in 1911, and he died in let's see, 3 years ago. That'd be 95. August of 95, he died. So and
And then you're the
oh,
youngest?
oh, all right. I'm the youngest, but I lost a sister between Lena and Harry, and she died at the age of 17, and she had tuberculosis.
TB?
TB, yeah. And she died at the age of 17. And that was the five of us. So that was our family.
And how much difference between the oldest and youngest?
How much
In age?
Well, the oldest, Francis, was born in 1904, and I was born in 1913.
So 9 years
Yeah.
for 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In those days, they had their babies like we did.
Yeah. Okay, so when did you and Tom meet?
Tom and I met, oh, that was very interesting. We met, well, I dated quite a few boys before I met Tom, and really thought I was in love. You know how you are at the age of 15, 16, and every boy you meet, oh, he looks nice, and he really is a nice guy, and you have a lot of fun, you know, and oh yeah. But I met Tom just a few days before I was 16. And after I met Tom, that was it. You know, he was so different.
Yeah, in what way?
Oh, he was kind and so good looking, and just really, well, he was my Prince Charming.
And how much older was Tom than you? If you
3 years.
So he was about 19 and you were 16.
Right. And we dated until, well, we dated for 4 years. But really, for about a year and a half after we dated, I still dated other boys, but it didn't mean anything. I just didn't want to get too serious with Tom because I didn't want to get married too young. And Tom kept saying, what do you want to date other boys for? Well, you know, and he wouldn't date another girl. He just absolutely wouldn't. I'd say, well, why don't you go date somebody? Just take him out. No, he wouldn't do it. But we started saving dimes about 2 years before we got married because we knew we were going to get married, and never got an engagement ring till 7 years after we were married because he couldn't afford it, and he was making $14 a week.
Is that a lot back then?
$14 a week. That was really not a lot of money, but that's the way it was. That was during the Depression.
Mm-hmm.
And believe me, the Depression, things were hard. I was working for one of the better families in St. Genevieve, doing housework and cooking for them and everything, and I made $5 a week. And I know that sounds awful, but that's all that, and I was one of the better paid ones.
Okay.
So
Well,
we started saving dimes, and every dime we'd get, we'd put in a can, you know. And would you believe that when we got married, out of those dimes, we bought our wedding clothes, and which I got married in a 998 dress and a little hat. I didn't have a big we didn't have a big wedding, or that I had a elaborate dress. But in those days, the 998 dress was it, you know. The hat cost almost as much as the dress. But anyway, we saved those dimes and we bought our wedding clothes and the flowers, and we paid for the drinks that we had to have at a wedding, which we didn't have a big wedding. It was just brothers and sisters and grandparents, and that's it. In those days, you didn't have big showers and big weddings, and We started from scratch. Tom got $5 from home, and I got $5 from home. And we didn't have any money saved up, but we learned how to save from the beginning. He was making $14 a week. And let me tell you, with $52 a month, around that, depends on your how many days was in a month, you know. But anyway, we had to really skimp because we paid $10 a month rent for 3 rooms upstairs, and we paid $10 a month rent, and we paid $10 off on our furniture a month, and we put $10 into savings. That had to be put in the savings every month. So we had $22 to live on a whole month and buy our gasoline and pay our insurance and everything else that we needed. So we didn't go out too much. Well, in those days you didn't go out and eat like people do now, you know. But we had like wiener roasts and things like that at home, you know, for our friends and have parties like that. Or we go out along the creek and have a watermelon party. We had fun. But it was always a group together, and everybody would bring a little something, you know. But as far as going out and for entertainment, we didn't. But there wasn't that much of it going on in those days. But we live on $22 a month.
Let's take a step back before we get with you and Tom.
Okay.
Let's take a step back when you were growing up.
Uh-huh.
What was it like when you were growing up? This was in the this was through World War One, right?
Yeah, right.
Because you were born in 1913,
and
so you were kind of young for World War One.
1919 was
World War One.
Yeah.
And then you had the 20s,
right.
Prohibition.
Right.
You had Prohibition and everything.
Right.
What was it like during that time period? The teens and the 20s, growing up during that time. What was it like when you were growing up? What were the things? I mean, your father was a carpenter.
Yeah.
So during that time, you know,
there wasn't too much work.
There wasn't too much work for him. So
there was just maybe repair work.
Mm-hmm. So
there was no building going on.
Okay.
Because so many things were rationed, you know. They had everything, you know, that you couldn't, buy gasoline to amount to anything, or, you know, just like, wasn't that many cars to begin with in those days, but the first car my mother and daddy had was one that you cranked, you know, you had to crank to start, and of course, had a battery. And I'll never forget, one morning we were coming from the farm to go to church, and we ran out of gasoline on the way in. So my daddy says, "Oh, well, that's all right, I'll just turn it on battery." He thought that the battery would take us. Yeah, right, because, you know, but it didn't. So we had to stop the next guy that was coming through and ride to town and get gasoline, and it was rough. But it was really rough during those days.
And you said that during those days, you know, there was no air conditioning. You did have electricity, though, right?
They had
when you moved to the city.
Not in the country, just in the city.
But
we didn't have electricity until the REA come in.
Oh, so when you grew up, you didn't have electricity?
Oh, when we lived on the farm, we didn't have no electricity, no. It was so hot that we couldn't sleep on the bed at night. We'd sleep on the floor and fan ourselves, but there was no way that we had a fan to help out outside of make our own fans out of newspapers and things of that sort.
Plumbing? What was your plumbing conditions?
Oh, we had an outdoor privy, and it was great. We had a Sears and Roebuck catalog in that outdoor privy, and I tell you, every time it was time to wash the dishes, why we would have to we would have to go to the privy, and we spent a lot of time in there just paging through the catalog, so we didn't have to do the dishes.
No. When it was time to clean the dishes, huh?
Right, yeah.
Come here, I want to talk to you. Tell me
So-
what all you've been doing so far.
Hold
Come
on,
here.
hold on, we're taping this.
Go ahead where you
All
at,
right.
you Jamie.
All right. Now, Jimmy, pets?
You enjoying
Oh,
yourself?
we always had a lot of dogs and cats. Oh, yes.
you been
You mean
doing,
when we lived
sweetie?
on the farm?
Have you been
Oh,
visiting?
yeah, we
You've
had
been
a
away
lot
from
of,
home a
lot of
lot
dogs
here,
and
huh?
cats. And rabbits, we had a lot of pets. And if we didn't have, if our tame rabbits would run away or they get out and run away or something, we'd go out in the field and catch wild rabbits and put them in a cage. Yeah. Oh, we had a lot of pets. We even had possums. Dad would catch possums and put them in a cage, and then so long a time he'd turn them loose, you know. But we had a lot of animals around all the time.
What about Tom? Do you know what that was like when he was growing up? Did you ever talk about that?
Well, they lived on a farm out in the Zale Weingarten area, in that area out there, and they had a lot of cattle. A lot of cattle, and they did have dogs. They had dogs that they would take in the field and bring the cattle in, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And cats, yeah, cats. Every time they go to milk the cows, why cats would wait around for a saucer of milk, you know.
Now, if they had cattle, were they not well off, but did they have, you know, pretty good conditions when he was growing up?
You mean with their cows?
Well, I mean, did they make enough money that they did
Well,
okay?
they didn't sell milk or you know, probably cream, you know, cream pan. Now, when we lived on the farm, we had cows, and my mother made so many pounds of butter every week, and my brother and I would take them to town, horse and buggy, and deliver them. And that was a lot of fun. We got to buy us some ice cream before we came home for delivering that butter. But we had something like about 20 to 30 customers that we delivered butter to every week. Pound of butter. And oh, that butter, it was really nice to make. She had a wooden mold and, you know, pound of butter. And then they had a lot of cream. And I'll never forget how we used to go down in the basement, take the lid off of the cream can and stick our finger in there and get a hunk of cream and lick it. Lick our finger.
So that's how they made extra money.
Right,
Growing up.
right, and eggs, sell
They
eggs.
sell eggs.
Yeah, they had my mother and daddy had a lot of chickens, and they sold a lot of eggs. And that's how they had to do. And then they plant in the garden, they plant a lot of potatoes and sell potatoes, and they weren't paid hardly anything for their potatoes. But the butter we sold for 50 cents a pound, and that was a good price in those days.
And most of the time you got around on horse and buggy?
Horse and buggy. And then we take a block of ice home with us for the next round, you know, that we needed ice for. And you could track us from town all the way home, because there'd be drips from the ice all the way on the road until we get home. Yes. That's how I grew up.
That's how but then you moved to the city though, right?
Then we moved to the city when I was 13.
And then when you moved to the city, you had electricity?
Yes, and that was really great.
And what were some of the conveniences the electricity provided you?
Well, we had a fan for one thing. One of the
Okay.
first things we bought, and of course the lights and a fan, and a refrigerator. We didn't have to go buy ice
You know,
in
refrigerator.
a block anymore, you know,
Mhm.
block ice. And but that was nice.
Mm-hmm. And you went to school all the way through high school?
No, I didn't. I went to school in Quarrytown, a little country school where they had 8 classes in the one room, first grade all the way up to the 8th grade. And that was real nice because you learned a lot from the older kids that you wouldn't have learned otherwise. But anyway, when we moved to town, I was in the, finished the 7th grade. And in town school, they said I have to go back all through the 7th grade in order to get into the school, the Valley School.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I thought I was too smart for that, you know. I was not about to take the 7th grade over, so I decided I didn't want to go to school. And in those days, you didn't have to go to school for a certain age or a certain grade. So I decided to get me a job at the Eco Bakery, a baker shop, and make some money.
And you were 12,
13 years old.
13.
And so anyway, I finished the 7th grade, but that's as far as I went.
How about Tom?
Tom went all through school, but not high school.
So he went to 8th grade?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
But later on then, I took the GED course in St. Genevieve, and I got a little more education like that. But if I never did think it was quite right for me, not that my mother and daddy didn't make me go through the 8th grade and go over that 7th grade, because I probably would have got more out of it in the school in St. Genevieve than the little country school, but that's where it was. We didn't have to. So.
So you, at the age of 13, you started your first job,
Right,
and then when you were 16, you met Tom.
right.
You were just a worldly person.
Well, you know, when you start working when you're young like that, you grow up faster,
Mm-hmm.
much faster than you do when you.
Now, you were the youngest, so by the time you were 13, you still lived with your parents?
Right.
And what about your other brothers and sisters? Had they already left?
My older brother and sister did, but Harry was home.
Was still
My younger
home.
brother, yeah, he was home.
And your other sister had already passed away from
Oh
TB.
yeah, she died in 1923. She was 17 years old.
So when you were 13, it was 1926.
23, she died
No, when you were 13, it was 1926.
already.
Right? And
Mhm.
then, so you're living through the 1920s, and then stock market crashed.
Oh sure, yeah.
And
I
the Great
remember.
Depression occurred. What was it like in the Great Depression?
Oh, that depression was terrible. It was terrible. Like I said before, we learned to save from the beginning because we were married during the depression. And what I mean, we really used everything we possibly could. We didn't throw anything away. And talk about leftovers, never leftovers were pitched out. We used them because we had to.
And you said you lived in an apartment, right? A 3-room apartment when you first got married?
Upstairs, yes.
Where, in St. Genevieve?
In St. Genevieve, yeah.
In St. Genevieve.
Mhm.
And how long were you married for your first child?
We were married about 2.5 years before Tommy Boy was born.
And that was in
1937.
37.
37 or 36, I guess.
Probably
1936. Mom was born in
Because
38.
he was born in December of 36, and he died the year Clarita was born, 38.
38.
Yeah, and he was
October.
13 months old when he died, so that, right. He was 13 months old when he died, so wouldn't that have been
No, he was born in
36,
37 then.
He was born in 37, yeah. He was
37.
born in 37, December of 37. December the 10th, 37, he was born. And then he lived 13 months and he died in January the 11th, 38.
No, it was 36 then.
Yeah, it had to be 36.
36.
Yeah, it had to, it had to be
October.
36.
Yeah, 36, and he died January of 38.
Yeah.
Before
And then
Clarita.
Dawn was, and then Dawn, and Mom
Yeah.
was born in
Yeah, that was,
38.
yeah, it was 36, yeah.
You're gonna get in on
Getting
this.
old there, Dawn.
Okay.
And, okay, so the Depression hit in the 30s, and did you have a car?
Oh yeah, we had it was a little roadster with a rumble seat, and we used to have so much fun in it. Oh yeah, it was so nice, that rumble seat. That was different.
Tom had a car,
Yeah, right.
and at that time, he was working for $15 an hour where?
$14 a week.
Probably $14 a week.
He was working for the MFA.
MFA, what's
The
that?
MFA, which is MFA Corporation here in town. They buy wheat, and well, Wally could tell you more about but they have all kind of farm.
It's co-op type of thing?
Yeah, right,
Okay.
MFA.
And he worked for them For how long?
Oh, quite a number of years. He was working there. And then, in I guess about 39, maybe he started working for Bill Sexar's Tavern. And he was there, I can't tell you just how many years, but he was there quite a few years. And then after that, he started with Citizens Electric. And he was with the line crew for, I guess, what was that, Wally, 35 years? Or I think he was there 35 years.
35, I think.
35 years?
Yeah.
So, Mom came around in 1938. Your first child died of croup?
Croup, yeah. He choked to death, yeah.
And what was your first child's name?
Thomas Joseph.
Thomas Joseph.
Hmm.
And he was born at home?
He was born at home. Hmm. Yeah.
In the same 3-room, or did you move?
No, we had managed to, with that savings of $10 a month, we managed to buy a little brick home shortly before Tommy was born. And so he was born in our home, and we lived in that home until 1942, I guess it was. We moved to the big place over here,
And where is that located?
St. Mary's Road.
St. Mary's Road. What's the address?
What is the address over there? I don't know, this is 397. That would be, I think that's about 375.
375 St.
Mhm.
Mary's Road, St.
Mhm.
Genevieve.
Hmm.
And then he passed away when he was 13 months.
13 months old, and
Croup.
he died January 11th, 1938.
And then Clarita was born.
Clarita was born October the 21st, 1938.
And you were not happy that she was a girl.
No, poor Clarita. We wanted a little boy, because naturally we wanted a boy after giving our little boy up. But when she came, oh, I cried, because God took our little boy and sent us a girl, you know. And she was dressed in boys' clothes until she was almost ready for school, because we had so many little boys' clothes for Tommy boy, and we dressed her in boys' clothes. And but when she was older, I told her, I says, well, I was real glad she came when she did, because she did so much for us, you know.
I want you to mention your children now.
All
Who
right.
your children are.
According to age, huh? All right, Clarita was born, then she was, told you when she was born, and Joseph came December the 10th, December the 18th, 1940.
Okay.
And Bill was born May the 12th, 1942. And Butch was born Bill was born on May the 10th on Mother's Day, and Butch came 4 years later on Mother's Day, May the 12th, 1946. And Richard was born February the 14th, Valentine's Day, 1948. And Dan was born January the 9th, 1950. And Dutz Gerarda Marie Dutz, she was born February the 6th, 1952. Mark was born June the 28th, 1953. They were pretty close together. And then, of course, Tim came along quite a bit later. He arrived November the 22nd, 1938.
58, 58,
Uh, 22nd, November 22nd.
59.
And,
59.
1950, yeah,
59.
I'm sorry,
59.
59, yeah, 59.
And when did Mary come into the family?
Mary came in a family, gosh,
We were in the 8th grade.
You were in the 8th grade?
Yeah, we were going into the 8th grade.
yeah, she was, now tell
Summer.
me, she was just 7 days younger than Clarita.
Yeah,
Tell him your birthday in,
Mine's the 28th of October.
28th of October?
The same year, yeah. Born in 38. And it was the summer before we went into 8th grade.
You're 3 days older than Mom.
7
she's,
days.
she's just a week older, I mean, a
7
week
days.
younger.
Clarita's is a week older. Her birthday's the 21st and mine's the 28th.
Oh, that's right, 21st, not 31st, yeah.
A week difference there.
Week difference.
Uh-huh, yeah.
But I know Tim's birthday was that was the year we got married. He was
So
born.
what, Mary?
Tim was born the year we got married in 59.
Yeah,
July.
59. I said
He was
39.
born
I
in,
don't know why. 59. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
born 59, and
And
Yeah.
when were you married? You were married in 1944?
we were married in 34.
34. That's right,
1934. May the 6th, 1934. We were married.
1934.
Kids, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So what were the 40s like?
The 40s were pretty nice, pretty good. Lots better than the 30s.
Were they?
Yeah,
What was the wartime like?
was
The wartime.
the war. Yeah. Well, that didn't affect us too much because our boys were all younger, you know. But it was a lot of things were. They had a lot of ration going on. There were a lot of things you
Rationing,
couldn't
stuff
buy
like
and
that.
so on, and it was bad. Mary probably could tell you more about that because she was keeping house during the parties, weren't you, Mary?
Not during the party.
No. I'm sorry. No.
The war
No.
was what, 45 old?
You went through the next war. Through the next war.
Only
was,
through the Korean War.
Yeah. It was better than the 30s, but it was still kind of around you that you have to be
Probably
careful.
a lot
and
of people
be
that
saving.
you knew, a lot of young men that you knew at the time were
Yeah.
involved in it.
Yeah, that was
You didn't have.
the Korean War.
The Korean War?
Yeah.
1950s.
Yeah.
50s.
10 years
The,
later.
the Vietnam War was in the
60s.
60s. Yeah.
And you had 2 sons that went to Vietnam?
We had 5 rounds in Vietnam, but we had all right. Joe and Butch were over there together,
Was it raining?
and then of course Joe was wounded and came home, and then Richard was sent over there, and then they sent Joe back over there, and Danny was in the
You
Marines.
have to worry about cleaning.
So you had 4.
So we had 4, but we actually had 4 rounds with Joe going over there twice, you know,
How you
in
been?
Vietnam, and then Dan was in the Marines. So we had 4 boys in service.
The summer better.
What was it like having all those kids in the house?
Oh,
A big family.
it was great, but they were kind of noisy
Kind of noisy?
and a lot of cooking to do and a lot of laundry. But it was real good.
It's cold.
I wish I could do it all over.
Yeah?
How'd you
Why?
Well, I do some things different. I wouldn't be as strict with the kids as I was. I wouldn't be quite as hard on them because I was always afraid they wouldn't grow up to be good kids, and I was pretty hard on them, you know. And I had set rules, and Daddy was a great daddy, but he wouldn't make decisions. The kids would want something, and he'd always say, "Well, go ask your mother. If it's okay with mother, it's okay with me." And then I'd say, "Well, go ask your daddy," and they go ask Daddy and say, "Well, mother says it's all right. It's okay with me, you know." So I just
I think he gets already.
he never made any decisions, but he was kind. I don't know. I don't think he ever spanked any of them, but I did.
You did?
I did, and they always looked at me as being the boss of the family because because I had to make the decisions, and that's the way children will. If the one that makes the decisions, you are the boss, you know.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to be, but
Someone had to.
somebody had to, yeah.
People
But
are that type.
a little cartoon that I cut out and put it in my book there, and the mother told her kids they were being mean, and she said, just wait till your father comes home, I'll tell him what you did. And when the daddy walked in, she said, take care of those kids, they really misbehaved. And he looked at me and says, hi kids. And that's the way daddy was, you know, he wouldn't
So that one is, is James, is he like that too?
a lot of times.
So have you done much traveling?
Really not. Well, yeah, well, I went to a couple of, had a couple of foreign trips to,
You've been out of the
yeah,
United States?
Germany and France, and went to Lady of Lourdes at France,
Mm-hmm.
and Fatima in Portugal, and went to Spain, and Ireland. Oh, that was beautiful. Ireland was just really beautiful. I'd love to go back there. And Monsignor Winter had a tour, and Daddy and I went with him. We first went to Ireland, and then we went to France
In the back while your mom drives.
and Lady of Lourdes, and then we went to Rome and had an audience with the Holy Father, and then we went to Spain, and then to Portugal to Lady of Fatima, and then back home. And that was 17 days we were gone. And then later on, I went with Father Smith, and a group from St. Genevieve here went, and several of them from St. Louis, and I went, and we went to France. First we went to Germany, Baden, Germany, and then we went to Switzerland, and then we went to Geneva, Switzerland. We went to where they made Sound of Music. I can't think of it.
Austria?
Austria, yeah. And then we went back to Germany, I guess, yeah. And we came home. But outside that was the only places out of the States. But of course, Minnesota, and with Joe, I went with Mary and Wally to Minnesota. And then I drove up there, a couple of widows and myself drove up there later. And Kansas City, of course, used to make many trips there when Joe was living up there.
Well, when you were raising the kids, you always had a garden, right?
Oh yeah, sure. We did a lot of canning, about 1,200 quarts of food.
A year
A
during
year.
during the growing season and everything.
Peaches and tomatoes and string beans, and
You have
we had to.
chickens,
That's a lot,
Yeah.
yeah. I remember
chickens
that.
and
we raised our broilers, yeah, our own chickens,
your milk
broilers,
cow.
and we had a cow, and we milked the cow and had our own milk and cream and what have you, you know.
You did all that.
Yeah. And we raised. I need a drink of water.
You drink water?
And
Dawn, can you
and-
drink water, please?
I got a chicken cough. And we got when the kids were small and wanted pets. Of course, we got some tame rabbits, and we thought, well, that would be good for our meat supply, you know, because they multiply pretty fast. And let me tell you, every time we'd kill a rabbit and have it on the table, the kids would sit there and they named all the rabbits. See, and we'd have a litter of maybe 6 to 8, and they'd name them all. They'd all have names. Thank you, dear. And so when we have rabbit, which rabbit is good eating, tame rabbit, they'd sit there, the kids, and they'd say, "Now, Mom, which one is that?" And they wouldn't eat it. So we just had to give all the rabbits away because they almost broke us up with feed because they kept on multiplying so fast. We had 20, 30 rabbits and didn't know what to do with them, you know. But
And the kids
yeah.
wouldn't eat them.
Kids wouldn't eat them, no. But the chickens, yeah, fine. They were fine.
They're fine.
They didn't name those like the rabbits.
Any other questions? We think of, we asked your grandparents?
I don't think so. I can't think of anything else.
What have you enjoyed the most?
What do I enjoy the most? Working outdoors with my flowers, my yard, and my garden. And of course the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren.
And how many grandchildren you have now?
I think the last count it was 37, and the last count on great-grandchildren was 22.
22.
Uh-huh.
And one more question. When you had your family, you worked also.
Yes, I
And
did.
you worked for
I
who?
had to because Tom's paycheck never went around.
And who'd you work for?
I used to sell religious items, the Bible, and all kind of religious items. At first, when I sold it, I did that through Father Jedrick. He got me started on it, and I did it and gave him the money because at that time he needed money for to buy all kind of things for the football players. Because I don't think at that time they had an athletic fund or whatever, alumni or whatever you call it, that buys things for the football players. And anyway, I gave him the money, and then later on we built a little gift shop, and Bill went to the seminary, and in the summertime, with the money we got out of the gift shop, we used for his tuition at the seminary. And Bill was in the seminary for a little over 6 years, going on 7 years, and then he decided to come out, and it wasn't for him, and he decided to come out. But after after they had alumni to do things for the football players, and Father Jedrick didn't need the money anymore. So then, of course, that's when we built a little gift shop and tried to make money like that. Then I sold World Book. World Book and Childcraft, and I went to. I used to really hit it up.
And how long did you sell World Book for?
37 years.
Wow. And I noticed you have an award in there
Yeah,
for
that's a lot.
What?
1,000 Club.
Wow, so you anxious to go back
Yeah.
home?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I used to really enjoy it. I worked through the schools, Farmington and Bonterra, and St. Genevieve and Perryville, and I worked through all the schools. And the teachers worked with me real good because they give me children's names that they felt needed help in a home, and their parents. And I'd go contact those parents, and of course in those days there wasn't computers.
Yep.
And what I mean, everybody seemed to need World Book. But you know, to this day, some of these parents that have World Book, and I'll meet them and I'll talk to them and I'll say, well, I guess you're not using your World Book anymore because you have a computer, I bet. And they say, yeah, we have a computer, but you don't know how many times we use that World Book. They still use it. So, like one little girl says, well, I can take my books along to bed, but I can't take the computer along to bed.
Yeah, it's true.
So I guess there's something to that, you know. But anyway, and then of course I worked at the hospital since day one, and they just celebrated their 30th year.
And what'd you do at the hospital?
I took care of the babies, the best department in the hospital to work in.
And you
They
were
never
always
talk
volunteering?
back to you. They never talk back to you, and they're so sweet. You can just enjoy them.
Were you always volunteer? Or would you?
I was a volunteer at first, but Jay Woods decided that I needed to be paid, so I went on schedule.
You went on schedule for how long?
Well, I was on volunteer just about a year.
And then you got paid for how long?
Well, since
Because you're a volunteer now, right?
No,
69
no.
was the
I'm
year
on
that
PRN. They
hospital-
call me as they need me.
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
on schedule, but they call me as they
Oh,
need me.
okay.
So, but I get paid. If I go, I get paid.
Okay.
But at first I donated, but Jay said that no, we want you to be on schedule. So,
Was there anything else you'd like to tell us about yourself?
well, not really because I just keep it going and doing the way I have been
Well, how about Tom?
keep busy.
Anything you want to tell us about Tom?
Well, Tom was a good guy, and he was a good husband and a good father, and I miss him a lot. And I take him back any time, but not the way he was if he had good health. But the way he was, it was really hard to take care of him. And I had him in a wheelchair for 2.5 years, and it was rough. And at that time, I was still working at the hospital, and I'd work nights and come home and take care of him because I had high school boys stay with him at night. And
He was in a wheelchair because he had a stroke?
He had a stroke, yes, he had a stroke. And I take care of him, shower him and shave him or whatever he needed, and I put him in front of TV and had a hospital bed for him in the family room in there, and I'd lay down in the hospital bed and I said, boy, now I'm going to sleep. And a little bit he'd come over and he'd pet me on the side. He'd say, honey, are you asleep? Are you asleep? And he wouldn't let me sleep. And during that time, I would work all night and maybe get 2 hours of sleep in a day and go back to work the next night. It was rough. And I didn't want to put him in the nursing home, but Dr. Lookwood told me that if I didn't put him in a nursing home, I'd be there. So he says, you better get the man in a nursing home or we'll have 2 of you there. So, once I took him to the nursing home, I think, well, that was it, you know. He only lived about 2.5 months after I took him to the nursing home. So, that's what
I have another question. Of the 11 children, right?
Pardon?
11 children, right, you had? 11 or 10?
I have 10 living, but I had one
You had 11.
But
How many of them were born at home?
all but the last 3. Dutz was the first one born in the hospital.
So it's Dutz
And
Mark
Mark and
and
Tim.
Tim were born in the hospital.
All the rest of them were born at home.
Born at home.
Perryville.
Mm-hmm. In those days, the doctor would come to the house and deliver the babies. In fact, we didn't have, that was before we had Perryville Hospital or St. Genevieve. Perryville was built before St. Genevieve. And it was go to St. Louis, you know. And gosh, I don't think I'd ever made it to St. Louis to have my babies because Dutz was born with, before the doctor got there. And, you know, so what I mean, it was Perryville Hospital was built, and she was the first one that was born in the hospital. The rest of them were born at home. But in those days, everybody had their babies at home, you know.
A little different.
Yeah, yeah. And to this day, I prefer that.
When did you get your first TV?
We got our first TV. Richard, when he was a little boy, he developed a kidney disease. He was about the size of Alex. And he developed what they call nephritis. And that's a kidney disease. So he has to stay put. What I mean, there's no medication in those days that they gave him for that, but he had to remain quiet, absolutely quiet. Well, a boy that age, how are you going to keep him quiet? So Morrow Electric, Henry Morrow, and Earl Ripson said, we will put a TV in your room for that, in your house for that boy, and that will keep him occupied and keep him quiet. And you don't have to feel obligated, but we want to be a help to you. So they put that TV in our living room, and Richard sat in the recliner all day and watched that TV. And in those days, they didn't have all these awful soap operas and all that, you know. It was things they could watch. And let me tell you, he got better just like that because his kidneys began to heal. So we bought the TV.
And that was in 1950 what?
Let's see, Richard was born in 48, so would have been about 19,
53, something
About
like that.
53, 52,
54
53,
maybe in there somewhere.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, 1954 maybe.
Before that, you just had radio?
Yeah, right.
Listen to
And the
radio in
wind-up
evenings?
Victrola.
And a
The
wind-up
Victrola that you
Victrola?
wind up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the first automatic washer we had, when I went to the hospital to have Dutz. And Mary and Carita were doing the work at home. You remember that, Mary?
Yeah.
And Daddy bought an automatic washer while I was in the hospital because he felt that those girls really needed it, you know, because they were doing the work and taking care of all those kids at home. And we didn't have any help. Carita and Mary took care of all those kids while I was in the hospital with Dutz.
And that was in 19, when was the?
And they were, what, about 14 years old, Mary,
What was
huh?
Dutz born in
50 what?
54?
No, Dutz was born
Born-
52.
52, okay.
So that's when you got your first automatic washer,
Right.
1952.
Before that, we had a hand washer, and at first when we were married, the way I did the laundry, we had a kettle outside, a big iron kettle, and we'd heat our water in that, and then we carry it to the washer, put in the washer, and it was one of these washers that you had, a wooden washer that you had to.
Was it washboard?
No, it was a handle where
Ringer?
you
Yeah.
pull back and forth, and it would wash the clothes.
It would agitate, and then you'd run through this one.
Now that was at first when we were married, and then when before Daddy got the automatic washer though, we had an electric washer that had the wringer and all that, but you had to be so careful when you put things in that wringer that you didn't get your hand in there.
Well,
Oh,
if
really?
you put it in there, you know, bunched it up too much, then the thing would shut
Yeah.
off. You'd have to
Yeah,
pull it out and
or there
start
was
it.
many a time that women got their hand caught in there and they had to, you know, it messed their hand up. So automatic was really a wonderful thing.
Oh, my
And when did you
golly.
get your first color television?
Our first colored television.
60s?
Well, we got it through World Book. I won 7 televisions through World Book. So,
7 televisions?
7 televisions.
Wow.
Carita got one. She got one. Dutz got one. And I sold a couple of them. And that one, this one here is still one that I got from
From
World
World
Book
Book.
years ago. Yeah. And
You got your first colored one through World Book.
oh yeah, yeah. Through working World Book. I used to really like. Richard said one day, he says, Mother, I used to just enjoy bringing my friends to the house and say, Mother won this from World Book, Mother won that, because I won so many different things from working through World Book, because they used to give some really nice gifts.
If you did well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I enjoyed working for World Book. It was
Mhm.
good. It was right up my alley.
What type of, and when your family got bigger, what type of car did you have to tote them around in?
Well, we had, the kids used to walk to school in the morning. Maybe you remember that at first, Mary.
used to walk.
And then later on, Daddy would take them in the company car when he'd go to work. And, sometimes, like the boys had to serve at church and things like that, they'd ride their bicycle. And, or
How many
walk.
cars did you have in the family? Just one?
No, we had 2.
You had 2 cars?
Yeah, we
And what
had
did
2
you
cars.
drive?
Tom had a company car, and then I had our family car.
Was it a sedan or a station wagon or what?
No, it was a, I guess a sedan, you call it. It's
Sedan.
a 2-seated car.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and then later on, we had a station wagon, I can remember. Sometime along the line, there was. a
Yeah,
station
yeah,
wagon.
we did. Later on, we did get a station wagon, but at first we had a
Yeah.
sedan, yeah. And Daddy had his company car, you know, that he drove.
And the
but,
kids would
uh,
ride the bikes.
But the kids rode bikes or walked, and they really, in those days, you could say, well, kids, go ahead, you know. you weren't afraid to turn them loose. Where, now you better drive them there.
And if the 50s and 60s, how many people lived in St. Genevieve? How big is the city?
Gosh, I don't think we had too many less than we have now.
No,
Which
think
is how
the
big?
population was probably about,
Around 5,000.
yeah.
So 5,000 people.
Hmm. Because in the last census, it dropped.
Yeah, the city limits is actually
dropped.
dropped.
The city. But it seemed like people moved into the country or the county.
In fact, in those days too, you knew the names, were all the same and familiar. You knew just about everybody that lived here, where nowadays, of course, it's altogether different,
Mhm.
but you knew everybody.
And you're
Some-
Catholic?
Yes, I am. Hmm. And our family they went to the Catholic school.
Okay.
All the children
All
went to the Catholic school and Catholic high school. Grade school and high school. Hmm. And took part in church and or so on and so forth, everything along the way.
Okay. Anything else? No? Okay. We want to photograph some of the pictures that you have on the wall.
Well, sure, go ahead.
And you'll need to explain who they are.
Well, the top one there
We'll have
is
to wait
my,
till we get up there and then you can do it.
already.
Okay, now who's this picture?
That's our wedding picture.
That's your wedding picture?
That's our wedding picture.
1934, right?
Right. May the 6th, 1934.
Let's zoom in.
And so he decided when we got off the boat, maybe we ought to look up the church, and try to
Oh,
the church. So
and
it
that's
wasn't
Tom?
far, we could walk there.
Tom and Mena.
So
And
we
Mena.
went there, and
All right. Now, who are these people?
And this is my brother Francis.
Okay.
And
Let's
this is
see if
my
I can zoom in. There we go. That's better there. Okay, that's Francis.
And this is my sister Lena.
All right. That's the second oldest. All right.
And this is my sister that died at the age of 17.
Was
All
across
right.
the aisle from us that we knew.
And this is my brother Harry.
All right.
And that's me.
And how old were you on that picture?
I think I was about, maybe about
There was an older
10 years old.
And what is that picture? First communion?
First communion. They're all first communion pictures. And this is our family picture right here.
It was kind of funny. But anyway, it was.
This is our family picture, and that was taken, we knew Marie, my sister, was going to pass away because there was nothing could be done for her. And we all look so sad on that picture, but that's the reason, because we knew that was going to be her last picture.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And it's so different from here. Things are still, so back in time. Of course, when you stop to think, it hasn't been a state that many years.
And that was, how old was she at this point? Was this about the age that she died?
Right, that was just about maybe a month before she died.
And so a lot of those.
And then this is your oldest brother?
Right.
And that's their.
And that's my
And
oldest
that oldest
sister.
sister. And how old was she there?
Well, let's
Maybe
see.
19 or so?
Two particular guys.
If she was 17, then
Yeah, I think she was about 19.
about 19, he was probably about 20,
And I'd
21.
say, he was maybe about 21 around there.
And then there's your dad.
Yeah.
That's your dad.
And then that's Harry. And he was,
And then that's you with the little
me.
bob cut there.
yeah.
Oh, how cute you now. Now, how old were you on this picture? About 13 or so? 12?
I'd say about around that, yeah, 12.
That's not all. You weren't a whole lot older than this when you quit school and decided to be a woman. huh?
Right, right.
And
that's
then,
my mother.
and then let's see, where's your mother? Oh, there's your mother.
She was so sad
Just to be on
looking.
your debate team.
Okay, and then what do
And
you have
this
here?
is Tom's brother that died playing baseball.
Okay, that's that one there.
Yeah, and this is Tom.
The one, the baby?
No, the other one.
Oh, this one
Yeah,
here.
that's
Okay, that's
Tom.
Tom.
And the other one is Father Winter, Monsignor Winter.
The baby.
Yeah, right.
And how old was Tom in this? Maybe 4 or 5, 3?
I'd say he was about 3 years old.
3 years old. Okay, and how about this
And that's
picture?
my brother Harry,
Which one? The tall one or the little one?
the tall one.
Okay, the one that's about 3.
Right.
And then the
that's
other one
my
is-
baby picture.
Oh, that's you.
Right, that's me.
Oh, and that's probably in 1914 maybe?
I'd say so.
When you're about 1 year old?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oil that comes down,
So,
you know, and it was just.
this is Grandpa Tom. When he was, how old was he in this picture?
He was, let's see.
It's probably in the 50s maybe? Or maybe 60s?
No, that was on, when he was on the school board. I'd say he was on the school board for 30 years. That was taken in, I'd say about 19, oh, you want to know how old he was?
Yeah. Ballpark it. The 50s, 40s years old? How old was he?
I'd say he was maybe about 60,
60 years old?
no, about 67 maybe.
He was 67 years old?
I'd say so.
Oh, he looks pretty good for 67.
Well, because that was taken, they dedicated a yearbook to him.
Okay, and then let's take a picture of this one.
All right,
We've
that's our
got-
family picture, and that was taken in,
We got Tom, and we got Mena, and we got the oldest child, which is Clarita, and we got Joe, and let's zoom out a little bit, and then we got,
and this is,
we got Bill over here, right?
yeah, and then Butch,
And then Butch,
and then Butch over there on the other
and then we
side.
got Rich here, and then Danny,
Yeah,
and then we have Dootsy,
and then
and then
Mark.
we have Mark, and Tim wasn't born in this
Tim
picture
wasn't
yet.
born. I was expecting
And
him.
Mary was in St. Louis,
That's right.
and this picture was taken in the late 60s or mid 60s before Joe went off to the service,
That's
right?
right. I'd say it was in the, not the late 60s, because he was
About
hurt.
65 maybe?
No, because he was wounded in 66. So I'd say that was taken about 62,
1962.
63 maybe, 63.
Here's the headstone of Thomas Winters, where it says, parents of Thomas, Clarita, Mary, Joseph, William, Jerome, Richard, Daniel, Gerarda, Mark, and Timothy.
That's the children, yeah. That's
That's
the
the
back
children.
side of it.
It's the back side of it.
Hmm.
And these are all
And this was
basically
taken at Clarita's wedding.
was taken at Clarita's wedding. So that would have been in 1960.
Right.
1960. Granny and Grandpa. And basically this board is just all of her children and grandchildren. This board is basically all of her children and grandchildren. And then this board includes some grandchildren. And then this board way over here is all her great-grandchildren.
And aren't they darling?
Yep. And that is Granny Mena's life.